Hey, what's up? I'm Jeff Perry, and I'm going to be analyzing A Madman's Diary by Lu Zhang for my video response. I wanted to analyze this text because I found it being the most interesting with allegories and metaphors about Chinese traditional cultures and values. In the beginning, I initially thought it was a fictional story about a madman's paranoia eating at him and that everyone had it out for him. Essentially, the persecution complex. If you don't know what that means, the persecution complex is the fear that harm is going to occur to oneself, or that the person may believe that they are being targeted by an individual or a group of people. In this case, being the madman. So I want to give you a few context, like clues and like kind of the background. It wasn't really when I went over the presentation and looked back at the text, specifically the quote, "Knowing the past 30 old years, I've been in the dark," that I really found the like hidden like allegory and like the context being behind the reading was the new culture movement in China. To analyze the text, I must first go over the context of the new culture movement in China. A Madman's Diary was originally published in 1918, briefly after the Boxer Rebellion. The Boxer Rebellion being a rebellion against the foreigners and the Western missionaries to eliminate Western and Christian beliefs. The rebellion was a demonstration of Chinese nationalism to keep Chinese traditional and to get rid of modernism. So this was basically the new culture movement in China. A lot of people wanted to bring a new culture, bring this more modern, westernized view. And this was published at a time where a lot of people didn't want that and wanted to eliminate that. So, when looking at the text specifically, when the madman states, all these words written in the book, all spoken by our tenant, gaze at me strangely with an enigmatic smile. I'm too a man, and they want to eat me. This is in the 3rd chapter, by the way. Because of his sickness, the madman is free of conventional culture constraints. He is able to talk and clearly think. His neighbors, family, and friends all seem to follow a bizarre set of culture conventions, obviously relating to the new culture movement, and like his friends and family being the people who want to keep the tradition, while he is the more awoke one, as you can say, and he wants this new movement to happen. The whole story is pretty much about cultural criticism. The madman compares his cultural behavior and individuals around him to cannibalism. He investigates references to cannibalism in historical writings and his allegations of cannibalism in a neighboring town. He raises concerns about cannibalism. He wonders about the existence of cannibals and who are always eager to devour like the neighbor, but are afraid of being eaten themselves. This is because cannibalism was a part of their history in the society. Cannibals did not question the practice. Lu Zhang pushed the Chinese people to evaluate their conduct and the rationale for their habit by connecting this tradition to cannibalism. So what I'm essentially saying is like the cannibalism in the story is a reference / allegory to this tradition that like it's kind of like the culture of people like always following like the herd and not really wanting to like uproot the society, change everything about it. When reading this quote, how can a man like myself for 1,000 of years, a man carrying history, even though I knew nothing about it at first, ever hope to face real men? And this other quote, perhaps there are still children who have not eaten me. Save the children. These quotes were stated in the chapter 8. These quotes demonstrate the fact that children are not traditionalists or nationalists, and he calls for a change in tradition that will save the children. Let me rerun that back. He calls for a change in tradition that will save the children. So these quotes I found that like Lu Zhang wanted to like state that like all these traditional Chinese beliefs have been the older generation, and it's finally time to like save the new like young people who have not been influenced by this traditional, more strict, more religious perspective. In the end, I believe that Lu Xun's A Madman's story is about traditional culture values versus new modernism within China. Lu Xun uses the madman's illness to force him out of the culturally acceptable form of behavior to combat Chinese nationalism and ostracism. As we see in the story, ostracism also served as to discourage people from acting differently from the norm by excluding those who did not fit in, but call for a change and will eliminate ostracism and traditionalism. Thank you, and goodbye.